Right you are, he says. I just hope for your sake that you're not friends the way I saw Miriam and Trish that night. He lets his accusation hang. I mean, they were really going at it. What do you mean? Oh, nothing, he says slyly. It's nobody's business, you know? Nobody's business. The band has started another song, a loud one, which gives me time to think. I remember things now. I was away the weekend Trish finally packed up and left and came home to her tearful goodbye on my machine, followed by a bunch of messages from Miriam in her clipped, expedient voice. When I called Miriam back, the anxious tone was gone. We were polite, still strangers then, and made plans to meet at the Rat. Later, I realized that Miriam didn't want to see the band. I think it was the Surf Fools that night. But I'd gotten her in for free, so the tone of our relationship was quickly established. Like I said, if either of us talked about Trish, it was me doing the talking. I'd mull over the Birdman's words, decide the hell with it, and get to the heart of our usual matter. So, you working? Why, you want something? Wouldn't object, I said. I'll probably see you at the Blue Plate special gig on Saturday. You're going, aren't you? Wouldn't miss it. Here. He handed me an empty cigarette pack. What's this? I flirt. But Birdman's all business now. My last quarter. Just be there on Saturday. He winked and I crumpled the cellophane pack in my hand. I never heard of anyone getting busted at Maudie's taproom, though years ago there'd been a murder. Gunplay before the club went punk. Since then, the employees always avert their eyes. Thanks, I told him, and he slipped away. I hear another voice chiding. Phoebe, are you smoking? Chester had caught my free hand in his and was peering into my face. I hastily clenched my merchandise. Who, me? I protested. Not since I quit for you. Chester gave me a half hug. As he bent towards me, I snapped a mental photograph of his diminutive blonde companion. Click, click, and she's filed in my mental Rolodex of betrayals, subcategory, new girlfriends. Chester pulls away and introduces us. His manners are oh so formal. Phoebe, this is Melanie. Melanie, meet Phoebe. Hi, Melanie says brightly. She is wearing a camera, a heavy job that crushes her crisp pink collar, but I'd already gotten my picture. Howdy, I drawl, the way the Birdman would say. I might have shaken her hand, but there was this Birdman cigarette pack to deal with. I stuff it in my pocket, and Chester lets my wrist drop. He hooks his thumbs in his belt loops and bounces on his heels. Still wearing girls' free-torn sneakers, I see. What a nerd. Melanie's a photographer, Chester explains. At the mention of her name, Melanie twines a hand around his waist. Brushing her ear with his lips, he says, Phoebe writes for the X-Express. I get a mouthful of grit. Not really, I demur, fighting off my embarrassment. Oh, I read your stuff, Melanie chirps. Now I have to look at her. Definitely tiny, I'm happy to report, but is she hanging on to Chester more than he is to her? I can't tell. Thank you, Melanie, I laugh sarcastically. Melanie is confused at this, especially when Chester laughs with me. I don't get it. He's never liked my record reviews, found fault with every line, which is the one reason why we couldn't get along. But this girl's a photographer, a silent observer whose opinions won't grate on him. Well, good for Chester. We all smile foolishly until the band finally stops. The guitarist has flung his instrument against the speaker and the club soundman kills the resulting white noise. Wow, Chester says. Intense, I parrot. It's what he always said. He tosses me a friendly look and then softly asks, How have you been, Phoebe? Okay, I whisper, but Melanie cuts in. Is that it? She wonders, still smiling at Chester, then at me. Her high voice has the pitch of a student council president. This makes me feel superior, me and my modulated voice. At least I know when last call is without being told. So does Chester. Maybe that's something else he didn't like. Afraid so, Chester informs his date. She yawns, big display of silver in the back molars. I do feel superior now. 26, just one cavity. Chester misses my knowing shrug, so I hoist my eyebrows in my favorite expression and feel my face crumple in a squint. Geez, how could I be drunk on 2 beers and half a scotch? My eyes wander to Miriam, revealed in the house lights. She's enmeshed in an impassioned dialogue with the Trout drummer. Chester sees her too. She never learns, I say indulgently. Miriam? Chester asks. Benevolent, I nod. She's a good kid, he says. Right, I think, and you're a good sport. Chester, Melanie's wheedling. Chester absently squeezes her arm. We're taking off, he says. Need a lift? Once again, the eyebrows go up. He knows where I live. Not unless I lose all use of my lower body between here and the door. Oh, right, he says. He bends to kiss me. See ya, he promises. I turn my head and his lips graze my cheek. See ya, I echo. Melanie is at the door, waiting for her ride. Nice meeting you, she waves. You too, I return. I don't wait for Miriam. From my seat at the bar, I see that she's got the bass drum turned over and is telling the drummer how he should pad the head. I flutter my fingers in her direction and prepare to depart. I can make it home from here, I really can, but I am prudent. I dally long enough for Chester and Melanie to get into Chester's car. I calculate how long it will take him to start the ignition and head off. I wait inside the vestibule at Maudie's until I can go home, where I will probably dial Trish's number in New York and wake her up. We have lots to catch up on, but I'm in no hurry. Here in Maudie's vestibule, I'm not bored. There are posters tacked on a cheapo paneling, a colorful collage for me to study. At the bottom of each Xerox advertisement are a sheaf of free admission tickets, clumsily stapled on. I whistle a tune, a medley of Trish's He's in Love with His Old Girlfriend, and my own Left Alone When I'm With You as I flick the slips of paper back and forth. I don't tear any off, though. I don't have to. Like I said, I get in free every time, with a +1 to boot. Thank you.